Every story you hear leaves a lesson behind. This is Story Times. The smallest hero in the biggest battle. Everyone in the village of Redvale knew one truth. Big battles were fought by big people. Tall warriors, broad shoulders, loud voices, strong arms. That was how it had always been. And that was why no one ever noticed Timo. Timo was small, smaller than the other children, smaller than the shields that hung in the town hall, smaller than the dreams people believed mattered. At 12 years old, he barely reached the chest of grown men, and when he walked, his steps were quiet, like he was afraid of the ground itself. People didn't mean to be cruel. They just didn't expect much from him. Run along, little one. You're too small for this. Leave it to the strong. Timo heard those words every day. He didn't argue. He didn't complain. He just nodded, smiled softly, and carried on. But inside him lived a heart that refused to be small. Every evening, when the sun melted into the hills, Timo sat beside his grandmother's fire. She was old and bent, with hands wrinkled like dried leaves, but her voice carried stories that filled the room like music. She spoke of heroes, not just warriors, but ordinary souls who chose courage when fear seemed easier. One day, she told him, "You'll face a battle bigger than yourself." Timo looked down at his thin arms and whispered, "How can someone like me fight a big battle?" His grandmother smiled. "Battles aren't measured by size," she said. "They're measured by heart." Timo held onto those words like a secret treasure. The day the biggest battle came, the sky was dark before noon. A deep horn echoed across Redvale, shaking windows and hearts alike. From the northern hills came the Iron Legion, an army known for crushing villages, stealing food, and leaving silence behind. The strongest fighters of Redvale gathered at the gates. Shields gleamed. Swords trembled in nervous hands. Fear hid behind brave faces. Timo stood at the edge of the crowd, unseen as always. The village leader shouted commands, organizing defenses. Mothers pulled children indoors. Fires were put out. Doors were barred. And Timo was told the same thing he'd always been told. Go hide. So he did. But hiding didn't bring him peace. As the ground trembled with marching boots, Timo felt something stirring inside him. Something louder than fear. He remembered his grandmother's words. He remembered every time he'd been ignored, dismissed, and overlooked. And suddenly he understood. This battle wasn't asking for strength. It was asking for courage. While the warriors prepared for a head-on fight, Timo slipped away quietly. No one noticed him leave. No one stopped him. He ran, not toward safety, but toward the old forest path behind the hills. The Iron Legion was powerful, but they were also arrogant. They always attacked directly. They never imagined someone small could matter. But Timo had noticed something others hadn't. Weeks earlier, while delivering bread, he'd overheard traders speaking about the Legion's weakness. Their supply line. Without food and weapons from the rear, the army could not fight for long. It was a dangerous thought, a foolish thought. But Timo wasn't thinking like a warrior. He was thinking like someone with nothing to lose. He crept through the forest, heart pounding, knees shaking. Every snapped twig felt like thunder. Every shadow looked like an enemy. At one point, fear almost won. He crouched behind a tree, whispering, "I'm too small. I can't do this." Then he remembered the fireside stories. He remembered his grandmother's smile, and he stood up. The supply camp was lightly guarded, just as he'd hoped. Soldiers laughed, confident that the real fight was ahead. They never looked down. That was their mistake. Timo moved like a shadow, cutting ropes, loosening carts, tipping barrels. His hands shook, but they didn't stop. One spark from a fallen torch, and chaos erupted. Food burned, weapons cracked, horses scattered, shouts filled the camp. Timo ran, not away, but toward the signal hill. He climbed with scraped palms and burning lungs, until he reached the top and lit the old warning fire. A column of smoke rose into the sky. Back in Redvale, the warriors saw it. Confusion spread through the Iron Legion ranks. Without supplies, without order, their advance faltered. Panic replaced confidence, and that was when Redvale struck. The battle was fierce but short. The Legion, weakened and disorganized, retreated. By sunset, the hills were quiet again. The biggest battle Redvale had ever faced was over. When the villagers gathered to celebrate, they praised the warriors, the leaders, the fighters. Then someone asked a simple question. Who lit the signal fire? Silence followed. Slowly, Timo stepped forward, clothes torn, face smudged with ash. "It was me," he said softly. Laughter came at first, then stopped when they saw his eyes. The village leader knelt in front of him, disbelief written across his face. "You?" he asked. "How?" Timo didn't boast. He didn't raise his voice. "I just did what I could." That night, Redvale learned a new truth. Heroes don't always carry swords. They don't always look strong. They don't always shout. Sometimes, the smallest hero changes everything. Years later, children gathered around a new fire, listening to an old story told by an old woman. She spoke of a boy who was small, quiet, and overlooked. A boy who proved that courage doesn't need permission. And somewhere in the crowd sat a young child, listening closely, holding on to hope. Just like Timo once did, because the world will always have big battles, and it will always need heroes, even the small ones.
Thank you for spending this moment with Story Times. If this story touched you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more meaningful stories. Until next time, remember every story teaches a lesson.